All right, well, we're a few minutes in, so we can go ahead and get started. Want to thank any of you that have dialed in to this point. Most of you I know pretty well, and we're having a short little introductory webinar to this product, KPAX, that ACDI launched officially in April, but it's something that previously, before that, we had been working on for about 12 months to get it out into the market. Um, I have had some uh, pretty decent success in getting this product out in the field, signed up through some of my resellers in this current role, and even was helping Dave uh, in my previous role before I took over for the Southeast. So I've seen a lot of these demos and seen a lot of these placements of this product. And um, there's numerous reasons why resellers will, pull the plug on what they've been using for years on a product that maybe you have hundreds of devices on. I know many of you are using PrintFleet. PrintFleet's a great product, but there's some things maybe that come with that product, that maybe some pain points that PrintFleet may give you or FM Audit may give you, that ACDI and KPAX I think can eliminate some of those issues and some of those pain points that you're having. And really, that's what we're going to talk about today. It's just going to be a brief overview of the product. We're going to answer some questions that any of you have. With that said, feel free to chime in with your questions if you want to. Just put those into the chat box. That'll be fine. We're actually going to, because there's only a handful of you, I selected a small batch and sent invites out to. Now, there was only a few that actually could join at this time. So it's a very intimate situation. Presentation that we're here going on a year. He came on board with us, previously working with PrintFleet, FM Audit, ECI, putting that product out in the field. So David comes with years of experience with this product. He's really a great resource for me. I didn't come from that type of an industry, so he's been a great resource for me to help me be successful in getting this product out. And guys, some of the pain points that David's going to speak to, the Liberty box that is going to be available. I'm finding great success with that with some of my other resellers, where it's eliminating a lot of the headache that they're having in regards to maybe that software they use going offline for whatever reason. David's going to speak to some of those reasons. This Liberty box that we're putting out in the field, it's eliminating that. So it's eliminating that time that you guys are having to send to scramble out a technician to get that agent back up. Time is money. So eliminating that requirement has been huge for some of my resellers. And also, I know with some other competitive products, the payment at time issue, you have to commit to a certain amount as far as how many devices you're going to monitor. And then maybe you're paying for data that you're not using. Well, KPAX is great in the fact that you only pay for the data that you need. So if you only need meter reads, paying for. But if you need meters and consumables, then you can pay for that as well. And then there's a third option of the meters, supplies, and maintenance. So, you guys can pick, and you can even mix it up. So if you have some customers that you need data from all three of those, that's fine. We can charge you for all three. But if you have some customers that you only want the meters on, then you're only paying for that one amount of data. And David will kind of run through that and explain that better for you. So with that said, I'm going to at this point hand this off to David, let him run through this. He's going to show you just a handful of slides, and then we're going to get into the actual presentation of the interface of the KPAX product. And then at the end, I think there's maybe just a couple more slides that kind of touch on pricing. So with that said, I'm going to hand this over to David Brown at this point.
Hey, thanks, Jason, and welcome everyone this afternoon. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. I will say that the more interactive these sessions can be, the better. The more questions that you have, the less likely Jason's going to turn on Al Green. So thank you for any questions in advance. Please send them our way, and please ask them. So with that, so Jason told you I came to ACDI from ECI. And prior to that, I was with Print Fleet. So I've been in fleet management for a while, know the ins and outs of that, and have got to see, the back ends of several of the products out there. And I actually met with Mark Hart almost a year ago this week. He had reached out. We live in the same area of Kentucky, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I want to have lunch with you. I want to talk through some industry stuff." And we sat down at lunch, and he said, "We're going to launch a product called KPAX into the North American market to compete with, ECI and the other fleet management solutions that are out there." And the first question I had for him was, "Why in the world would you do that? And what would compel one to enter a market that seems like it's a mature market, it's a full market?" But he said, there are gaps there. There are gaps in the market in terms of support. There are some things that KPAX can do that some of these other solutions can't. And so I looked at KPAX. I did a review of it before coming on board, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me at that point to say, this is something that needs to be in the North American market, needs to be brought to the dealers and resellers here. And I've been excited to come over and do that. I've been here about a year now. We've launched it in the midst of a pandemic, which has been an interesting situation as well. But so we're going to go through, as Jason kind of walked through some of the highline things. You should be able to unmute. So if you have a question, please jump in. But we're going to start with kind of a session to say, well, what's the biggest complaint about your current software? So again, I want to say thanks for spending an hour of your time with us this afternoon. Obviously, you guys have a reason for wanting to jump in, wanting to hear what's different about KPAX. So I'm going to ask for some courage here. Is anybody willing to unmute and share kind of what compelled you to jump on this session this afternoon? So a couple of the things that, and that's all right if we don't have any takers, or if I've done something wrong on the back end and we can't, you guys can't unmute. A couple of the things that we hear regularly in calls are, hey, we just don't get the support we used to get from our current solution. The costs is going up. We get a rate increase every single year. We're limited with the integrations that we have, or we have agents drop off, or we haven't seen meaningful updates. So, again, if you guys want to jump in and ask questions or comment on any of these, that's great. But these are some of the main points that we see day in and day out when we talk to other dealers about KPAX, and that's the reason that they're looking at exploring a switch or have already decided they want to make a switch. So getting to, did somebody unmute? Was somebody going to say something? Or was that you, Jason?
That was me, sorry.
All right. If you look back over the last 10 to 12 years, when fleet management solutions came out, they all kind of relied on one thing. And they have different feature sets. They have different functionalities. By and large, it's to get data from machines. But essentially, there's one weakness with all fleet management solutions, and that's the installation of the agent. Not necessarily the process, but where you install it. So that where is traditionally been a desktop PC or a server. That's an asset that your customer owns, that you don't have control over. You don't have access to it other than when you install it, or you have to ask to go back in and get access to it. So it creates this issue. And over the past 10 years, what we've seen is there's been a trend away from desktop PCs and server rooms to laptops and cloud-based solutions. So the server rooms are going away by and large. Desktop PCs are going away. They're being replaced by laptops. And for any of the, you guys that have tried to install an agent on a laptop, you can do it. It'll run for a few days or a week, and then somebody's going to remove that laptop. And then you're flying blind. And in a lot of cases, you don't even know you're flying blind. And that's one of the things that excited me about KPAX is they have what's called the Liberty. The Liberty is a standalone agent, and we've got a picture of it here on the screen. It's actually got network ports at both ends, so you can connect it in line. It's got its own power supply, or you can use power over Ethernet. So this completely negates the need for going to your customer and saying, hey, I need access to a PC, or I need a server to put this agent on. You don't need it. It's not even an issue anymore. Now you've got your own self-contained agent, connects to the network, connects to power, so it's much, much more stable. And the numbers on this look something like what we see with software agents is about 33% of those are going to require some sort of intervention over the course of 12 months. So if you think about that, and most of the dealers that we've talked to have said either one of two things: yeah, that number's about right, or I think it's low. And I don't know what your particular scenario is at your dealership, but there's probably going to be some semblance of 33% or potentially higher of those software agents getting disconnected and causing you to try to manage without information. So a couple cool things about the Liberty is it's really easy to install. So we've had dealers that, have dozens of these things in place. They like it because with the environment now, they can go in to a customer and get out without touching anything other than plugging this into. It comes with its own network cable, comes with its own power adapter. So they've got everything self-contained. They walk in, they connect the agent, and they walk out. And I'll show you as we get into the demo how you can configure these. It's all done remotely through the cloud. And then you plug it in, set it up, and it's done. So you can configure it via smartphone. You can configure it through the cloud. Very easy to do. So the other big differentiator that we have, and Jason mentioned this earlier, is coins. So when you have another fleet management system, and probably the one that you have, you pay by device per month. And sometimes you pay a licensing fee and a maintenance fee. And then if you're hosted in the cloud, you might pay a hosting fee. We have coins. It's per coin. There's a coin for meters, a coin for consumables or supplies, and there's a coin for the service data or the maintenance information. So you can have 0, which would be an unmanaged device, up to 3 coins on any device. And our model is it's all inclusive. We've got a low entry point at 180 per month, and you earn discounts as you use more. So this is our pricing. You get 1,000 coins per month for $180. And it's month to month. That includes software, the hosting, and the technical support. Everything that you need to get started is there. So the price, as we've compared it to others, is extremely competitive. Even at a fully managed device, which is 3 coins, extremely competitive compared to anything else in the market. So generally, you're going to have some savings there. And then when we look at the Liberty, the savings of not having to deploy technicians all the time to go and intervene with those agents that haven't reported in a week or 2 weeks or a month is huge. So those are really the 2 big reasons that dealers have started to come over and started to move into KPAX. So I'm going to pause now, and we're getting ready to go into the demo. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to start sharing the KPAX UI. Jason, you want to pause? Are there any questions on the chat?
No questions in the chat. And guys, while he's pulling up the interface with KPAX, if you have any questions at this point, let's go ahead and knock those out while David's pulling up the interface.
Is it one Liberty per device, or is it per location? Is the Liberty, in essence, the DCA?
It's per location.
It is. Per network, yes.
Thank you.
Yep, great question. So this is the Liberty interface. And one of the things that the feedback that we get constantly is it's very clean. It's very easy to use. So you can see, bear with me one moment. So you can see the navigation down the left-hand side. So you can set up and manage accounts. You can set up and manage your agents, the devices. You can set up rules that are like alerts or notifications for events that you want to know about. Low supply, new device comes on into the network, a supply was changed. The types of things that are going to create an action item for you. And then a dashboard or a statistics view. And I'll show you a couple of these as we go through. This is our demo site. So we've got a hierarchy set up. We can show you, you can set up groups for your individual customers. You can create subgroups. And you can do this as many levels as you need to. I've gone about 5 levels deep and haven't been restricted on it. So since we just talked about the coins, one of the first things I'll show you in the settings, which is this little gear icon here, are the profiles and the coins. So when you see the devices, you can actually apply a profile. When you start out with KPAX, you get access to 4 profiles, and then you can create as many more as you want or need. So a new device comes in, and this is a big difference, probably over what you're using now. As a new device comes in with your current solution, you get invoiced for it, and then you have to suppress it or delete it or do something to not have to pay for it going forward. With KPAX, you actually get to see it. You'll see the manufacturer, the model number, and the name. You'll see the IP address, the MAC address, and what type of machine it is. And then you can choose to apply a profile that has coins attached. So in essence, you can do a base level assessment on what's in an environment at no cost. So there's an unmanaged profile. So if you want to switch it to new with no coins to unmanaged, just to say, hey, this is not a new device, we're just not managing it. Fully managed, 3 coins. Under surveillance, which is it's kind of a default assessment type profile. So it's got the 1 coin for meter readings. And then if you want to create, you can name them whatever, supplies and errors, meters and supplies. You can even name it Fred if you want to, and somebody did. So whatever you want to do as far as creating profiles, it's completely customizable. So now looking at the device view, we're going to assume that we've got an agent, whether it be a Liberty or a software agent installed. So I'll make that distinction now. We have 2 options. You can use a traditional software agent, and that's fine when there's an adequate place. There's an adequate server or workstation to deploy that. Or you've got a high level of IT credibility in that environment. But if you don't, then please do use a Liberty, and it, again, makes all the difference in terms of stability. So here we've got devices. These are the ones in our ACDI HQ. You can see the profile. If we want to change the profile on one, I can click on that and just change it to a different profile and apply that. And again, this allows you to, across all the thousands of devices, when you go in and you set those up, you can apply the profile that matches or aligns with your contract. And it can make a big difference at the end of the month when you're paying for your fleet management. But you can see through the device view, you've got basic meters, supplies. You can go into it and look in more detail. Again, everything's very clean. You can see the profile, the type of device that you have, the firmware version, supply information, what your customer's seeing on the LCD panel. You want to go and take a closer look at supplies, and you can look at it historically and see, okay, what's happened over the last 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And you can see as it loads that you've got a supply level, and you can see how it declines over time. So that's the device view. one of the things that I'll point out is the agents are very easy to configure. So whether you can see, this is a Windows agent we have set up in our HQ. If we were to back out and we wanted to look at all the agents that we have, I can go back to my root group, and now I can see all the agents, and some of them are Windows, some of them are Liberty agents, and I can go in and modify those. And I'll just show you briefly what the parameters on those look like. You can set up an IP range, or you can scan the entire network. And you have the ability to segment those scans as well. And if you're going to select meters, well, maybe you only want meters every 10 hours. Supplies, 2 hours is more appropriate, because we want to be notified if there is heavy volumes printed and we now need to replace a supply item. Technical alerts, maybe you've got some service level agreement that you've got to respond in a certain amount of time. Well, you can take this down to a lower time interval. So we've got it at 20 minutes, and now it's going to report if there is an event on a machine within every 20 minutes. So again, in terms of you managing your customer, it makes all the difference in the world how much time elapses between the scans for each of these pieces of information. And KPAX gives you the customization to be able to do that. So we looked at devices. We can set up rules. And you can create a rule for, like I said, low supplies, the consumable parts, being able to replace those, technical alerts, any sort of warnings, any sort of part failures that you want to be alerted on. If the agent is for some reason not reporting, you can be alerted when an interval of time passes, like 72 hours. Yeah, I've got this customer. I want to make sure that I'm constantly getting updates. And if I stop getting updates, I'd like to be notified. If the device gets disconnected, we've got 12 devices on a contract within this environment. Now we want to know, okay, one of those devices is no longer reporting. Well, we want to be able to check it out and see why. We want to be able to know in a timely manner. Being able to pull any sort of reporting, see a new device, somebody went to Costco, got a new device, plugged it into the network. Hey, we see that in our KPAX system now. Maybe we can put it on a supplies or a service contract. Supply got changed out. Yeah, we shipped one 2 weeks ago that didn't, they didn't try to resell it on eBay for a profit. They actually put it in the machine. That's fantastic. And then the parts changed out. So again, any of the actionable intelligence that you need from your fleet management is here. You can configure it. Again, very customizable. Statistics view is, I'm actually going to limit this to, well, we can look at everything. It's fine. So you can see across all your fleet or an individual group, what's happening within the fleet in terms of volumes, color versus mono. You've got MFP versus printer, copy printing. You can see all the manufacturers that are in that environment, and then where the pages are coming from. So again, kind of a high-level view. Jason, any questions coming through, or?
No questions, but one comment I'd like to make on, now that we're here on this analytics and statistics page. One thing that we are working on the back end on developing is being able to have the KPAX and paper cut data integrated, so that you guys are able to source this information. Because as we all know that KPAX is a product for your customers to manage themselves internally, and where KPAX and PrintFleet and these type of products are a product for you to manage your customers, it would be good for you to be able to also have the KPAX data as well as the paper cut data, and that's something that that we are working on developing at this time. So,
no, good point, Jason. And on that, one of the things that we really like about KPAX, and I'll show you while we're in the interface here, is within the settings. We looked at the coins and the profiles. We have something called API management. Now, if you work with another fleet management solution and you want to integrate with another third-party software of any kind, whether that be an ERP software or analytics software, TCO, whatever, you're going to have to go to them and say, hey, can I get an API key for this company that I'd like to work with? And in some cases, they'll say no. In some cases, they can say yes, but it's going to cost you X amount of money. With KPAX, this is part of your subscription. You can control your API management. You can create access and pass that access to whatever vendors or other partners that you have. And you can flow data from KPAX into that system or have that system trigger things in KPAX. So it's very nice. And, again, working with Printfleet, ECI, I understand what it means to have to go and ask for an API key. And this is a really nice thing, especially if you have integrations that you want to use. So links to the technical documentation is there. I'll pause if there are any questions. Briefly now.
Just along the integration lines, is there anything already pre-built, knowing some of the industry standards out there?
Pre-built. So the APIs are, let's see, I can actually show you that. Are you asking about certain specific integrations like an eAutomate or something like that?
You got it.
All right. So with us competing directly with ECI, we can actually go through CEO Juice. So if you work with CEO Juice, they can integrate you directly into it. Otherwise, we can set up an import or an export-import process into eAutomate. We've done both. If you want to know about that one specifically.
Yeah, that was it. And our particular dealership does use CEO Juice.
No, great. So that can work.
Yeah, you would just need to request from your contact at CEO that you would, going forward, like your KPAX data to be loaded, and then they'll work with you on creating that pathway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for awesome, anything else, we've had some other platforms that have been built out that they set up and deploy agents through there. So it's two-way communication. So some really cool things that we've already done and will continue to do. So yeah, it's quite open.
Yeah, guys, that's one of the reasons why we picked KPAX when we were looking at some other products. We saw everything that was out there. We didn't want to, just be another Printfleet distributor. And what we liked is you guys that sell PaperCut, you're so familiar with how often PaperCut does upgrades and updates. The product's always evolving. And that was one of the same things that we saw from KPAX that, they're always updating, enhancing the product. And that's one of the things that drew us to the product. And actually, the developers of KPAX, they're also a PaperCut distributor like ACDI, but they're out of Europe and have been running this KPAX product for well over 10 years. So it's a large product out in the European market, and ACDI is the ones to bring it to the U.S. market, and we will be the only distributor here in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a great point. Some people think, well, it's new. It's KPAX. It's a new product. This company and the product have been around for well over a decade, and so this is they've gone through and they know the nuances of this space. They know fleet management. They know what the resellers are asking for. They know the features that make sense and the ones that kind of take you down a rabbit hole that are not really necessary. So been very impressed with the team and the way that they've consistently evolved the product. And the API is one of the most recent pieces, and it was in the last release, and very impressed with that. I'll open it up. Any questions, anything specifically that anyone wants to see in the interface before we leave it? I've shown you, you've seen the hierarchy, you've seen the device views, you've seen the coins and how they're applied. You've seen what the, how to change the profiles. We've covered a lot in a short amount of time, so it's probably a bit of drinking from the fire hose. But is there anything else that you want to see? Anything you want to ask about? Again, is informational or as conversational as possible, or else Jason turns on Al Green. So appreciate any questions. All right. Well, we will stop sharing here, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and Jason's getting queued up on Al Green's greatest hits over there. And so the next question, or the next topic, and Jason will talk about this a little bit, is how to get started. And one thing I will say before I turn it back over to Jason is being in the fleet management space, completely understand it is not an overnight. You're not on another solution and you go to KPAX and have every one of your customers installed, tomorrow. So it can be a structured process, but it is a process. And I think we have not only a technical support team, but solutions architects, professional services, the conversations that we're having, and I just had one this morning, was we looked at, okay, how many customers do you have? What does that look like then if we shoot for the end of the year to get everything transitioned over? Our team can pitch in and help get some of these installed. We can pre-configure Liberty boxes to send to you or send directly to your customer. So I know part of it is, I'll put these on the screen here. We can do a Q&A with you and your team, do an implementation or a transition plan, and those transition plans differ based on the dealer. We get it.
Yeah, and guys, I know how it is when you product, maybe you've been using another product for years and you have literally hundreds or maybe thousands of devices that you're monitoring through the product. We do not in any way expect this to be hey, let's switch now transition. It's going to be a gradual process, and we understand that. And, that's why, KPAX is set up well to grow with you at your own rate of speed with our pay for what you use motto. We can go as slow or as fast as you want. So, and really with the devices, being able to add to your fleet of what you're monitoring through KPAX, it's really great, again, to have that pay as you go mentality. As far as getting going, we'll send out some Liberty boxes so that you guys can test those. And then, once you've decided to come on board, at that point, we'll fully invoice you for the KPAX or for the Liberty boxes. I'm sorry. With our engineering team, we're going to assist you in getting KPAX set up. We're going to be able to assist your team with training and really whatever's needed to get you guys to the comfort level of, hey, let's take a look at this product, really take a look at it and get it out there and see what it can do. And guys, I've not had anybody who tested it and fully tested it and looked at that Liberty who's not signed up at this point or planning on signing up here in the near future. Yeah, that's a great point. We just had somebody who we talked to yesterday, and they're getting ready to move forward. They were doing a trial, and I said, "What do you think about the Liberty boxes?" And he said, "It was everything I hoped it would be. It was easy to use. We could pass it right on to our installation team. They could walk out there and do it." So they'd been trying to configure Raspberry Pis or small Windows boxes. So much easier.